Hello and welcome to this tutorial, and in this tutorial we'll be finally writing some code for our shared preferences application. So whenever we click this button we want something to happen. So what we basically want this button click to happen is return inside this on click. So if you switch on to properties and if you go to on click, this is the method right here which we want to execute on clicking this button. So now it's time to define this method, and we need to write in some code for this method so that whenever we click the button, preference should be stored. So we switch on to this main activity and we create the method right here. So we type public void, and as the method name is save info, we type save info, and to this we have the parameter as view. So once this is done, the next thing which we do is that we create an object for shared preferences. So we type shared preferences and let's name the object as shared pref. We type this equals get shared preferences, and this is nothing but a method to get the shared preferences. And to this we need to pass in a few things. First is going to be the name, and this name is going to be the name of the shared preferences. So let's name it as user info. As we are passing in the username and password, let's call it as user info. And then we type context dot mode, and we are passing it in a private mode. So make sure that you have the context as private mode. Now the next thing which we do is that we need to edit this shared preferences. So in order to edit the shared preferences, we need to create the shared preferences editor object. So we type shared preferences dot editor and we create the object for it and we call it as editor. We type this equals shared preferences dot edit, or this should be shared pref dot edit, and this should be equal to this shared pref right here dot edit. And this is actually going to make us able to edit the shared preferences, and inside the shared preferences we actually want to put in the strings which we have. So we type editor dot put strings to put strings into it, and we want to put the username. So we type username and we actually give it a name as username, and here we pass in the actual username. So we type user input, which is nothing but the username, dot get text to get the text, and finally we need to convert it into string, so we use toStrings method. And for the password we do the same thing. So we type editor dot put string, as we need to put password, and we name it as password, and we are naming it because we are going to need the same names while we are retrieving the data from the shared preferences. We also use here password input, which we have reference to right here. So this is basically the content which the user is going to type into the edit text. Then we type dot get text to get the text, and we need to convert it into a string before storing it, so we use the toString method. And finally we need to apply these changes to the editor. So we type editor dot apply, and it is going to make the changes to our shared preferences. Now in order to notify the user, or in order to inform the user that the changes have been saved, we need to make a toast. So we type toast dot make text, and inside make text, first parameter to be passed is going to be this. The next is going to be the message which we want to pass. So we type, let's say, saved, and then we need to mention the length of how long the toast is going to be displayed. So we type toast dot length long, and it is going to display the toast for a little bit longer period of time. Then finally we need to show the toast, that is pop up the toast. So we type dot show. So this method right here is basically for this button, which is going to add the shared preferences. Now we also need a method for this button which is going to display the shared preferences. So we go outside here and we create a new method. So we type public void, and you also need to check in the name for the on click of display. So if we go to properties and go on click, this right here which is display data is the name for the on click or the on click method. So we go here and we type in display data as the name of the method, and the structure of this is going to be same as the save info. So we type view, and inside it we just need a reference to the shared preferences and we just need to display it. So we type, so what we do is that instead of typing the code once again, we simply go here and we copy this line of code right here, which is actually going to get the shared preferences for us, and we go here and paste it. So once this is done, we just need to extract the string from the shared preferences and store it into a string so that we could display it. So we create a string variable. So we type string, and the first thing which we want to display is the name. So we type name, and inside the name we want to extract the name from the shared preference. So we type shared pref dot get string, and get string is a method which is going to extract the string from the shared preferences. So the first thing which we want is the username. So we type username, and the next thing which we leave it as blank. Next thing which we want is the password. So for password we simply copy this, paste it, and make a few changes here. So this should be password, and to extract password we need to pass in password over here. So this basically is going to get the name and the password. Now the only thing which we need to do is that we need to display these two inside this large text right here. So in order to do that, we go here and then we type myText dot set text, and we simply print out the name, then we type plus, then we give a little bit of space, then we again type a plus sign, and then we display the password. Or instead of password you could just name it as PW or anything which you want. So once this is done, we are good to go. So we save the code and we run our application onto the emulator. So as you could see, our application is up and running on the emulator, and let's go ahead and type in some data into this. So let's say the username is AAA, and let's say the password is B and B. Now if we click add, it is going to show us a toast which says saved. Now in order to check if whether this data is actually displayed onto this onto the share in the shared preference, we click on display, and when we click display, as you could see, the username as well as the password are displayed. Now let's say the user exits this app. In that case, let's see what happens. So if we exit this application now, and now this application is in our menu, so we open up the menu and the name of our application is shared pref. So we search for our application. So this thing right here is the shared pref. So actually I have two applications. So this is the application which we have worked with right now, and that is because this is shared preference and this is shared pref. So when we open it up and when we click display, as you could see, the shared preference has still stored the data for us, and we are still able to access the data. So that's how you use shared preferences, and I hope you guys understood why shared preferences are used and how to implement or how to use shared preferences in your application to store the data of the user inside the application. So thank you very much for watching this tutorial, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Thank you.